So now it's time to develop some HTML, and we'll start off with our first page, and in that we'll do our first task. Before we start that, we need to create ourselves a folder. And what we'll do is we'll create a folder for the HTML, a folder for CSS, and a folder for JavaScript. So if you go to your Finder or to your Windows Explorer and create wherever you like a folder. So I'm going to go New Folder, and I'm going to call it Vehicle Code Application. And press Enter. And then I'm going to go inside the Vehicle Code Application, and I'm going to create 3 folders. So the first one, HTML. Then the second one will be CSS. And then the third one will be JavaScript. So now we have a folder called Vehicle Code Application, and inside it, 3 folders, CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. And for this lesson, we will only use the HTML. But at a later stage, if you do the CSS and the JavaScript courses, you will then have the folders ready and we can use them. So our first task really is we're going to create a starter page. So we're going to open up Visual Studio Code, and then we're going to click on the Open option from the opening screen, or we're going to click on the File menu and click Open. And when we click Open Folder, what we're going to do is try and find where we located the Vehicle Code Application, the top level folder. Don't go inside the CSS or the HTML or the JavaScript. So we'll do that now. So opening up Visual Studio Code, we can click Open File, Open Folder. So be careful, we want the open folder at the moment. So we click on Open Folder. We then locate where we put the Vehicle Code Application and click on it and click Select Folder. On the left-hand side, we can see the CSS folder, the HTML folder, and the JavaScript folder. And what we want to do now is we want to create a new file that will hold our HTML. So the file we're going to create, Vehicle Quote Form. So we're going to right-click on the HTML, and we're going to create a new file and call it Vehicle Quote Form, and you must put .html. So right-click, new file, and then just type Vehicle Quote Form.html, and then we press the Enter key. So now we have a blank screen where we can put our HTML code. Now I'm going to zoom up here, and in Visual Studio Code, it's Control and the plus key, and that will zoom it up a wee bit so we can actually see what we're going to type in. So if we looked at this in the Windows Explorer or in Finder, what we would see is that it has been connected to a browser. In this case here, you can see that this is my default browser, which is going to be Edge, but I could right-click on that and go to Open With. Yeah, so I can go to Open With, and I can pick Firefox or Chrome, Internet Explorer, Edge, or whatever other browser we have. So if you're on a Mac, it would be Safari. Okay, so if I open that by just double-clicking on it, then we won't have anything in it at the moment. You would just see a blank page. So what we want to do now is we want to make sure that we have the Vehicle Code Form.html open as you have in your editor. And then we're going to add some basic structure for the HTML page. Now you can type all of this code that we have here. So we can see that you have a HTML and an end HTML. And The way to do that in a shortcut is by putting in the exclamation mark. So if I go back into here and put an exclamation mark, you can see that it comes up with exclamation mark and 3 exclamation marks. We want the first one, and then we press enter. If that doesn't come up for you, don't worry about that. Just go and type it. So the next thing to do is go to File and Save, or we can right click inside the code and view in the browser if we have it saved already. So let's look at Visual Studio Code and go to File, and you can see that I have set it to auto save. So everything I do is automatically being saved. I don't need to go to save each time. So having got our basic HTML, we'll just change this title to say Vehicle Code Application. So if we have our autosave on, remember, we don't need to save every time. Now, if we wanted to view this in a browser, it depends on what is installed with Visual Studio Code. In my case, if I right click, I've got an open with live server. So I'll be able to see that in a browser, and every time I make a change, it will view that. You may have where it says open in a browser or open in default browser. But the easiest way for us to do this, just to make sure that it works, is we will go to Finder or Windows Explorer, where we have our HTML folder, which we created earlier. And we will right click and go to Open With, and then you pick whichever browser you want. So I'm going to pick Chrome. Show you now that here at the top, it says Vehicle Code Application. This is not inside the main part of the browser window or the web page. We can see the name of our web page, but up at the top, that's a title. So if we now go back into our code, we'll be able to make some changes to our code. But for the start, this is the title, and it's within a head. So we can see we have a title, and we can also see the name here of our web page in the address bar. So the content of the title is one of the components used by a search engine. Yeah, so the search engine have algorithms, and they look at the title of your web page to decide the order in which to list the pages in a search result. So it's important that we put a title in there which is relevant to what we're trying to do. Also within our code, we can see that there are things like meta tag, title, style, link, script. So each one of those do different things. These 2 tags were used in the head. So if we go back into our code, we can see that we have meta and title within the head. Style, we could use a style tag to color things, but that's a part of what we will do within CSS. So this is just pure HTML. A link, we could use a link as well. So we could put a link into this and link it to the CSS, or we could link it to somewhere else. We can also put a script tag in. The script tag would allow us to link to a JavaScript file, for example. So if we're doing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then we can connect them all together. So the title element defines the title of the document. It must contain text only, and it is required in HTML documents. It defines a title in the browser title. It provides a title for the page when it is added to the browser favorites. So if we add this to the favorites, that's the name that will go with it. And displays a title for the page in search engine results, as we just talked about. The content of a page title is very important for what is called search engine optimization, or SEO. So it's all about that algorithm trying to get your page to the top. The page title is used for search engine algorithms to decide the order in which listing pages, and the text between the title and the end title sets the title of the page to be in our case, vehicle quote application.